Hello and welcome to the Par 3 Scottish Open edition. Matt Brown, Stephen Andress coming to you fresh off of an outright and a couple of other guys who damn near got it done as well. That was a good Par 3 last week. You had Davis Thompson featured on this. You had Thorbjornsen featured on this. You had Ben Griffin featured on this as well. So running pretty good here, Stephen, and hopefully we can carry this over into the Scottish Open.
Yeah, we got Scottish Open ideas here. I'm going to end this podcast with one guy I'm betting in the ISCO Championship.
I like it.
The PGA Tour event. Yeah, down the road from me here in Louisville. It's in Lexington, the tournament formerly known as the Barbasol. So 2 golf tournaments to think about this week. And then obviously Liv's going on 2 in Spain. So 3 golf tournaments to bet on if you so choose.
I think there's a Corn Ferry. You could bet on that if you wanted to. We got all kinds of stuff.
You know, the ones that we consider top level, so to speak.
Yeah, I was, you and I, before we started recording, we went in and we were like, hey, we both looked up what an ISCO is because we were like curious. I thought it would have been gangster if ISCO was like a competing shave gel company and like they came in and like swooped it from underneath Barbasol. I was going to be like, man, I love that. But instead it's just, they do pipe. There's nothing. It's nothing sexy. It's a pipe company.
You know what though? It's refreshing to have a blue collar sponsor on the PGA Tour because whenever you get a sponsor on this tour and you're not sure what it is, it's usually like some cloud computing business assistant with AI capabilities. Like it's some like Silicon Valley nonsense or whatever that's sponsored that you've never heard of. So good on the blue collar pipe company for getting in on the sponsorship here.
It is a deeper field this week, guys, than we've had the last few weeks. We have 18 of the top 30 in the world. Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Ludwig Oberg, Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, Victor Hovland, et cetera, Tom Kim, Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Thomas, Hideki Matsuyama, all those. No Scotty Scheffler, so we have a chance of winning this one. Yeah, I was going to say, we have a chance of winning this tournament, so it's a good thing. No Scotty Scheffler this week, and we'll kick things off here. Stephen, it's your honors as you hit the outright last week.
All right, I'm going to start with Tom Kim, and I will preface this with he's not in my top 5 this week. He's not in my top 3, but I also think you need to kind of expand your thinking as we go across the pond here to link-style golf in Scotland. All of our data, if you're using the modeling subscriptions that we do, Matt, is all based on PGA Tour data on very different courses, on very dry conditions. We are on, courses that just are totally different and weather-wise too. It's been really a hot summer. Most of the places these guys have gone, it's going to be totally different conditions when we go to Scotland. So I do think having some links course history is important this week. And I think Tom Kim is a perfect combination of that. So for me, looking at his odds, you can get him still around 30-1. I think that's fair. If you look at what he's done in this event over the past 2 years, T6 last year, 3rd the year before that. So very strong course history. And 2 years ago when he finished 3rd, he was just 2 shots behind Xander Schauffele, the winner, and 1 shot behind Kurt Kitayama. Overall, on the season, he did miss the cut at the Rocket Mortgage's last time out. But before that, he had gained on approach in 4 consecutive events, 5 of his past 6. This course does play a little bit longer with the Scottish conditions as well if it's going to be windy, so you do want some length off the tee. Tom Kim isn't, the biggest bomber on tour, but he's still above tour average in driving distance in recent events. So, and he's also got, other than the cut at the Rocket Mortgage, if you go back a little further, solo second at the Travelers, where he almost got Scotty Scheffler in a playoff. T4 at the RBC Canadian Open, which among all the PGA Tour events is the one event that's probably closest to the conditions you're going to get here. A little bit cooler weather. You saw a bunch of other European or, Ryan Fox from New Zealand, international players playing well in those type of conditions. So I think it's a perfect fit here of the model likes him enough. He's kind of top 10 for me, fringe top 10 for me. He's got the links course history. So that was the easiest click for me right off the bat when the top of the board was really tough for me to decipher right now.
Tom Kim, number 6 overall in my 24-round model. So, again, another guy that fit a lot of the categories, checked off a lot of the boxes that I was looking for this week. One of the guys I just can't ignore, and I've had a lot of I've had an incredible amount of frustration betting Colin Morikawa over the years. I can't seem to get him right. I'm off him when he wins. I'm on him when he loses, but he is just inside the top 5 in every single thing that I ran this week. And Stephen, it seems like maybe it's trending a little bit in the right direction for Colin. It seems like all the stuff at the beginning of the season that was really plaguing him has start to come around for him. Specifically, if you start to go in the shorter term stuff, 24 rounds, he's 3rd overall. If you kind of shrink that a little bit more, if you go into 20 rounds, he moves up to 2, actually ahead of Xander in my model. So like, again, the recent form is really trending in the right direction for Colin Morikawa. If you extend it out a little bit longer, he's probably not going to rank as high for you, but I'm looking a little bit closer for some of these dudes that are coming in with the right game, in my opinion, for what it takes to win in something like this. And, you know, it's like you said, would we prefer distance here? Yeah, and I weighted distance pretty heavily, actually, in my model this week. And Stephen, which that lets me know just how much the algorithm loves Morikawa, because he's 47th in this field in driving distance, in which I weighted like 20% of the model, and he's still 3rd overall in the last 24 rounds. If that tells you anything about how good he is in all the other categories that I put in, he's a proven winner. We know he can win overseas as well. There's a lot to like about Colin Morikawa, and for me, I'm going to try to catch him while he's still sitting in that 16, 17, 18 range, because, you know, I don't think we're that far off from getting Morikawa back into the 12-ish, 13, 14 range where he was when we were talking about him, you know, a year and a half ago or something like that. So a little bit bigger number on him this week, and I'll take Colin Morikawa as my first pick.
Yeah, I mean, I bet him a few times recently here once we saw that the irons were starting to get back to what we are accustomed to with Colin Morikawa. So he didn't make my card yet. There's still about, you know, half of the amount I usually put for outrights. I usually do about 3 to 3.5 units on outrights. I still held back about half of that, trying to figure out what I want to do. So he's certainly on my short list, just trying to figure it out. This isn't a place that he played well 2 years ago. He missed the cut, opted not to play in the tournament here last year. So, but I think obviously that's a much smaller sample size than what we've seen from him playing well. And I think, you know, obviously he's got an Open Championship too. So it's not like anybody's going to claim he's not a good links course player either, Matt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Who's your second?
All right. So I want to take some shots on some DP World Tour guys this week. I mean, we saw Aaron Rai win here a couple of years ago before he came over to be a full-time PGA Tour player. With link style golf, I think there is room for guys who just aren't being bet because a lot of people are using modeling services that only account for PGA Tour data. There might be some guys that play full-time on the DP World Tour that play well in these types of conditions that might be getting overlooked, and we're getting a really good price on. So this guy, I'm not saying is going to be a huge discount on his odds, but I think Rasmus Højgaard, the other Højgaard, Nikolai, his twin brother, is full-time on the PGA Tour, almost won the Farmers Insurance Open. Rasmus is still full-time on the DP World Tour, and he's been phenomenal. I mean, he's had like 9 top 10s since the start of last year over there. This season alone, he's had 4 top 10s, and that doesn't include 2 other T11s that he's had this season. And coming into this event, T20 and then a T4 last time out in the KLM Open. And most importantly to me, well above tournament average for strokes gained on approach. This guy is really flushing his irons right now. I love to see that. Combine that with the fact that he is well above average in driving distance off the tee. Nikolai's longer than him, his brother, but he's nowhere near as good with his irons. So as long as you're not on a bomber's paradise, Rasmus can really kind of make some noise here. He was a winner on the DP World Tour a year ago. Doesn't have the win this year, but clearly he's been in contention a lot this season. As far as course history here, he did have a T10 in 2022, and he's also done fairly well at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship, which hits a lot of the links courses in Scotland. Had a T17 there as well. So if you want to take a shot on some DP World Tour guys, I think Rasmus Højgaard at 100 to 1 is a decent little dart throw here.
These aren't going to be official picks for me, but just to kind of add on to what you're saying, 3 guys that kind of piqued my interest when I really dug into the modeling this week. they're not going to model well for you because it's incomplete data set. But if you go in and just the basic stats that we do get, again, I don't know if they'll be outrights or if these will just be placement market stuff or whatever, but Tom McKibben, Bernd Wiesberger, and Jordan Smith, if you go in and check out those three guys, play almost exclusively in Europe. But they are really, really good. I mean, if you sort just the stats that we do have, Stephen, strokes gained off the tee last 24 rounds, Tom McKibben is second in this field in strokes gained off the tee. And then if you strokes gained approach, right, last 24 rounds, Bernd Wiesberger first overall in this field. Like the stats that we do have, these dudes are playing very, very well and have a very, very good track record. It's just, again, it's an incomplete data set, and so you kind of have to dig deep and you have to do a little bit of faith, a leap of faith for those guys. But three other guys that you could take a look at.
I'm glad you mentioned them. Jordan Smith is on my outright card as another bomb, and Tom McKibben is very much in consideration at 90-1. Not there yet, but very much on the short list for me.
Second play for me is a surprise, and I had to dig in and I had to figure out why Justin Thomas was modeling as high as he was for me, Stephen. And the thing is, it's like, I think because he's not doing it week in, week out, I'm not going to say it's like out of sight, out of mind or anything like that with Justin Thomas, but it's just one of those deals where I guess we just have such a lofty expectation of Justin Thomas. And so you remember when he plays like crap and gets cut, but it's like he gets cut at the Masters, which the Masters was weird with the weather and all the stuff like that, but comes back T5 at the RBC Heritage, T21 at the Wells Fargo, T8 at the PGA, T33 at the Memorial. Then he gets cut at the US Open only to bounce back with a T5 at the Travelers. It's kind of like an under the radar, really good stretch of golf for Justin Thomas that I think because we remember him getting cut at the US Open and we remember him playing like crap at the Masters, that it's like we don't really look at these other tournaments where he's played really well. And so Justin Thomas, you can still find kind of 40-1, 35-1 out there on Justin Thomas. And I think for where his game is kind of right now, listen, I'll take, when we're betting outright, Steve, I'll take a dude that gets cut every now and then, but if his peak is like these T5s and, thirds and seconds, like that means he's giving you a chance to win, right? He's giving you a chance to cash these tickets. And so I'd rather have a guy who peaks really, really high. And if he's not on his game, he might just get cut. Like it kind of is what it is. So Justin Thomas, for me, somebody that I think is a little undervalued here in the market.
And at the very least, if like playing in the weather in this tournament this week becomes very much not enjoyable, we at least know that Justin Thomas doesn't mind grinding, right? Like he won the PGA one year doing that through a third round that was just absolutely miserable conditions. So you at least
if
know
you follow
that.
him on Instagram, he loves to hit those piss missiles. Like he posts that all the time. Like he hit those little worm burners and stuff and all. He's got that in his bag. He's creative around the greens. We know you could get creative whenever you go overseas, specifically over in Scotland. You can do weird things. You can do the bump and runs. You can putt from way off. You can there's a lot of different things you can try. And obviously there's very few that are as good around the greens as Justin Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely. On my short list for sure. This is like last week you told me Thor Bjornsson and he got onto my short list. I hadn't really been thinking about Justin Thomas, but now I definitely have to consider him. Mm-hmm. And again, just our weekly reminder to everybody for our full betting cards, go to the lines.com homepage, top right-hand corner, hit the Discord button, and you can find our staff bets in the Staff Golf Bets channel. When I make my final decisions on the rest of my card, that's always where I post it for everybody for free. Okay, my final guy.
Isco.
We're going the Isco, baby. We're going to the Isco, down the road in Lexington from me, the tournament formerly known as the Barbasol, and we're putting everybody's favorite golfer, Joel Damon, on the card.
There we go.
Now, he's taking some bets this week. I think he started around 50-1. He's down to 40-1. I think 40-1 is still fine. I mean, if you're listening to this and he's gotten steamed all the way down to 30-1, that's where I'd probably start thinking about, better choices. But Matt, I know Clinton, the amateur, who's probably, we don't know this, but if I had to guess, the first amateur to ever be favored in a PGA Tour event since probably like Bobby frickin' Jones. And this guy who just left college to turn pro, Thor Bjornsson, if you're going to give me literally 2 college kids on the top of the board, I want to take shots on some other guys.
Yeah.
And maybe these guys are studs and they're going to have an early win in their PGA Tour careers. It is kind of a B event on the tour, so it's the weak field that you're going to get, weakest field you're going to get compared to most other PGA Tour events. But I just love the way Joel Damon is striking the golf ball right now. If you look at his last 5 events, steadily gaining strokes on approach since the AT&T Byron Nelson, going from less than a stroke gain to 1.8 to 3.9, 3.1 at the Rocket, and then at the John Deere last week, 5.6. On top of that, gaining more than 2 strokes off the tee. Despite not being a long hitter, he's uber accurate off the tee, so you never have to worry about him getting into a bad position like some of these other guys. So 4.5, 6.1, 6.1 strokes gained tee to green each of his last 3 events. He just can't putt. He's a bad putter. I admit that. And he's only gained strokes 1 time putting in his last 5 events. But Matt, like we've talked about this on and off in the past. We anchor ourselves in ball striking and hope for a good putting week sometimes if we get decent odds on it. And I think Joel Damon in this field at this price is worth it despite the obvious putting concerns.
My final guy is another surprise to me, and it was model tells me one thing, I need to go dig in and figure out why the model loves Corey Connors as much as it does. And Corey Connors, guy you can find out there about 50-ish, 55 to 1 in this. And like, I think it's because of those deals where I weighted driving distance so heavily. We talked about Tom Kim a little bit earlier there, Stephen, but it's like you have it in mind that like Corey Connors just isn't long. And like, I think it's like one of those deals where we just have made up our minds that Corey Connors is a guy for like positional courses. And then you go in and you look and you see that he's actually 35th in this field over the last 24 rounds in driving distance. And it's 301.18 yards per drive. Like, he's still averaging over 300 yards with his drives. And like, the difference between him and the person who is 20th is sitting at 305.7, right? So we're literally talking about 4 yards of difference between him and someone that would be, we could literally say, oh, he's in the top 20 in this field in driving distance if he was 4 yards longer. There's a big separation with the guys at the very top, Rory and Benny On and Minwoo Lee and all those guys, Wyndham Clark. Yeah, they're 320 plus, off the tee. But Corey Connors is basically just everybody else in this field, right? I mean, like, he's not short by any stretch of the imagination. He's just everybody else. Everyone else falls in that kind of 300 to 305, 306, 307-ish range. And so with that, I'm throwing out the fact that I used to think that he was nothing more than a positional golf course guy. If I need some distance, I think he's got it. Over 300 yards over the last 24 rounds. And again, I don't have to tell you about the approach stuff with Corey Connors. It's just sick. The dude lost 0.3 at the Travelers, still was able to scrape together a T27 in that. And Steven, that was after gaining on approach in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 consecutive starts for Corey Connors. We know what he does with those irons. And weirdly enough, has only lost off the tee once in the past 6 tournaments as well. So that off the tee game is not bad for Corey Connors. And so for me, a dude that I have to maybe change my mindset on, maybe change what I think about Corey Connors. Same deal we always talk about. Yeah, Corey Connors can't putt. We just need a guy to run hot. Like, the thing about Corey Connors, he really is one of those streaky putters. Like, he'll lose 3 strokes the week. Let's put it this way. He loses 2 tournaments in a row and then gains 6 strokes, over at the RBC Canadian. He loses 3.8 at the Memorial and then gains 3.4 at the U.S. Open. I just need to get him on one of those peak putting tournaments, and I think he'll at least put himself in contention. And as we know, Steve, if you got a 55 to 1 ticket, you can monetize that thing come Sunday as long as your guy is in contention. So Corey Connors, another surprise entry for the card this week.
If, like I said, the RBC Canadian is a comp for this week, then you have to consider Corey Connors. He was, right there in the mix despite a slow start in round 1. So he gets off to a little bit better start. And here's the other thing too, he's 55-1 still right now at one spot. And there are guys like Minwoo Lee at 28-1, Aaron Rai at 45, who's never been able to put 4 rounds together.
Yeah.
And I know he's won this event 2 years ago, but like, I mean, that's all you're anchoring yourself on with Aaron Rai, I guess. You know, I don't know. I'm mixed on Aaron Rai. Maybe I'm giving him too hard of a time because he has been playing well in the PGA Tour and he has won this event. So maybe that's the wrong example. But like, there are other guys above him, like Bobby Mack won the Canadian. He's shorter odds than Corey Connors, but Bobby Mack won the Canadian, gaining like double digits putting.
Yeah.
Like that's not repeatable. And I know he did well at this event last year, but like he's not a good ball striker. So I think the price is very fair for Connors at 55-1.
And like you said, if he's in contention come Sunday, we can make money off that ticket more times than not. So 55-1, really do like all that. As Stephen mentioned, upper right hand corner of thelines.com, that is the Discord. That is where everything is absolutely free. And also, one more thing, guys, if you haven't done so already, this channel is absolutely free. Everything we do on YouTube. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up if you do like what we got going on here. Got you some winners home. At least got you in a position to make some money in last week as well, with even the ones that didn't get home. So feeling pretty good about our picks here, Stephen, as we roll towards yet another, our final, I should say, major of the year. For Stephen, I'm Matt. Good luck on all your Scottish Open bets.